Hey, I'm Marina.
And I'm Emily.
And I've seen everything in the Sex and the City empire 10,000 times.
And I'm starting fresh.
So I'll be woman-splaining the show.
And I'm along for the ride.
But there's a twist. We are starting with And Just Like That and working our way back to the beginning.
So in other words, we're watching it backwards and in high heels.
This is City and the Sex. Welcome back, And Just Like That, episode 3, baby.
I'm going to give you a plea at the start of this, Marina, that you have to help me with. But it's up to you. You have to rein me in a little bit for this episode, because otherwise I'm going to get on a soapbox and go insane. I think this is the episode that broke me a little bit.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it wasn't even, I will say it's not even like this episode in particular maybe was like the craziest thing we've covered on the show. I think it was a lot of like straw breaking camel's back moments. This was the first episode I can remember in a while where I had to like pause and take a break. So I was like, I'm so aggravated. I need to just go on a walk.
First of all, so your one word is the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yes, exactly.
My one word is maybe, it'll be interesting to talk about because my one word is high highs, low lows. In that, I actually thought there were some really good moments in this episode where I was like, wow, okay, they figured a plot out. Congrats. I think what kept me going is that not only did I watch the first episode fully with my boyfriend, but as you know, I watched the episode twice. And so he actually managed to watch it a second time, not the whole thing, but like a piece of it. And I was like, this is incredible.
Okay.
Like, this is giving me a renewed energy because I think if I had to sit here and watch these by myself, I would have snapped my own neck.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, I can't wait to hear your thoughts. And then also any thoughts that you have like via the audience in the room. Right?
I got them noted down.
Okay, excellent.
I got them highlighted,
much to discuss,
underlined, bolded, all the fonts.
Okay, great.
Well,
it's gonna be such a wackadoodle episode. I can't wait.
Yeah, everybody's seatbelts down. This is And Just Like That, season 3, episode 3. Carrie, Golightly. Let's start with the name. They thought.
Okay, what's going on?
Let me peel back and say, last episode I said I was not going to listen to the Writers Podcast. And in that time, I listened to all 3 episodes of the Writers Podcast because I was like bored. And also I was like, I got to know. And they were so proud of that pun.
Oh, of course they were.
So that's how you know how
of course
I'm feeling
they
about
were.
them.
Yeah. I'm sure they were patting themselves on the back for Carrie Golightly. It's not even like a pun. You've just replaced her first name from Holly to Carrie.
But get it? She's going lightly to Virginia. Come on, Emily. See the symbolism. Wake up.
All right.
The viewer coincidentally cannot see Emily's face, which is just downtrodden. The woman appeared downtrodden as she was forced to
Oh my God. Oh my God. Do not start me with the woman. The woman appeared downtrodden. God damn it, Marina. That was good.
Do you remember? I remember when 50 Shades of Grey came out and I read it with my friends. And I don't know if you remember the mechanism that book uses, which is my internal goddess.
Right.
It's really giving me that. It's throwing me back to 2012, my inner goddess.
That's really funny. That's actually going to make all of those really funny. Like, anytime there's an internal monologue, just replace the woman with my internal goddess. That's very good.
10 out of 10. Anyway, so Carrie's at home and she's on a Zoom call with the agent. This is where we get the line, oh, romantasy is so in, Sex in the Cauldron. Again, a book I would rather read.
I would love that. I would love for some Carrie, like, monster smut, hard left turn in her career. I think that'd be hilarious.
I would love to see it. Unfortunately, we were talking about this offline, but we had an improv teacher once. I know we're mentioning improv. Hide your kids, hide your wife. But we had an improv teacher once who was like, the worst thing you can do is like talk about a baby dragon and then not like improvise a baby dragon. Like no one wants to watch an improv scene about a baby dragon. Like you're doing improv. We should just see it. And that's how we're going to label a lot of our issues with this show, which is, you give me the baby dragon of romantasy Sex in the Cauldron and then you don't let me see it. Illegal.
Illegal, call my lawyer.
Then we get another crime, which is that Carrie turns down South by Southwest and Google.
It's too passe for her. Her eye roll is so funny.
To go to Williamsburg, Virginia, which I don't know if anybody's been to Williamsburg. I have twice. And there's nothing there except the fake colony.
I used to go to school there, actually. I did 2 years of college there before I transferred and can confirm it has not changed since like the 1660s. I mean, there's the college campus and then there's Colonial Williamsburg where everyone is like in costume running around and a lot of sheep. And then there's like a pizza place. And that's it. That's the tour of Williamsburg, So it's I was also a little bit confused where we are, and maybe you can help me here because what the heck is going on? I don't maybe know where Norfolk is. Like where he is. Williamsburg is like South Virginia. It's not
the way this episode had me pulling up maps. First of all, in this scene alone, my boyfriend was like, Google's not in Palo Alto, it's in Mountain View, California.
We're already lost.
Bro's already like, I hate this. So then I had to Google that. And I was like, well, Palo Alto is close enough to Mountain View. And he was like, it's Mountain View. I'm like, okay, calm down. Then
will no one stand up for the Googlers?
Will no one stand up for that massive corporation? Okay. And then Williamsburg is an hour away from Norfolk. I literally Googled it because I was like, is this even close? And they do have a passerby line in the show that's like, oh, it's an hour drive or whatever. It's just so complicated again. And they also messed with the wrong people because, again, you and I are Williamsburg specialists. So
yeah, unfortunately we have experience. So like this doesn't fly. I don't know where. I'm going to guess that this writing seminar, whatever she's going to, then must be at the college because there's nothing else going on there. But speaking of Tiny Dragon, what a like missed opportunity to send historical fiction aficionado Carrie to a historical town to actually interact with historical people and maybe realize that this isn't for her. That could be hilarious.
That would be great. I would love to. I mean, they tease it in next episode that we're going to get Carrie on the prairie. But I would have been more excited to see her trapped here. My mom and I got trapped in Williamsburg once. It was awful. It was like raining. That would have been fun. Why didn't we write this? Anyway, it does explain later how the restaurant manager is also the runner of the festival and maybe also the president of the College of William and Mary? ?
It's absurdly ambiguous for who this fan is.
I also realized normally we go character by character, and we will. And I started with Carrie, and at first I was like, oh no, we save her for last. But honestly, her plot is the most annoying, so let's do her first, and then we'll end on the highs.
And then we can reel back.
Okay. So then all four of the girls are at Hot Fella's bread opening. We'll come back to this scene several times. And the Carrie of it all is that, she's using this as a vehicle so that she can go stop by and have a casual lunch with Aiden, which, okay. And then...
Yeah. At this point, it's very unclear what relationship status we're in and why we're like not planning lunches with each other. We can like talk on the phone, but we can't hang out, but we can sort of accidentally hang out. It's not clear.
It's not very clear. And the writers podcast is obsessed with how Seema and Miranda are bonding in this scene. And when I watched it a second time, I was like, it is a two line exchange. And they talked about it for 20 minutes on the writers podcast. And I was like, again, says everything I need to know.
I was genuinely about to say, I think you said the wrong name there because I don't remember her talking to Miranda at all.
They don't talk. It's just Seema's hyping her from the side. And we can see that their relationship is deepening. And in fact, Carrie calls them the Grimm sisters Grimm. And that's how you know that it's happening. Okay.
Oh my God. Okay. Anyway.
My big complaint with Carrie in general this episode is they've tried to sell me that she's mature. They've tried to sell me that she's grown, and yet she refuses to communicate about visiting Aiden with his fucking family.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Marina. We will not be gaslit like this. This podcast is our chance to heal from the gaslighting and abuse that we receive vis-a-vis the writer's podcast and this show. I absolutely not. We're treating this like her first, speaking of college, it's like her first college situationship. Like that amount of weird communication, mixed signals, nonsense. Do I do this? What do I do that? I won't text. I'll just do this, and then he'll find me. She's 50. We're in a what's going on?
But she's mature. She's grown, and like she's moved on from the insecurities of the past. And now I'm like, do they know that that's a lie? But I think they believe it. I don't know, and honestly, I don't think they know.
Yeah. No, something they needs to. We need to talk to the writers. They need to come to the red table talk. Some healing needs to happen.
Jada Pinkett Smith needs to moderate. Get her back out. Miss her.
Get her back out of retirement.
Then, in the weirdest turn of events, Carrie then peer pressures her friends to come with her. And like Charlotte says the thing out loud, which is like, oh, you want us to come to like make it seem even more casual? And I'm like, what are we doing? An awful idea, because what if he then invites you over, as we see with Seema later, and then she just ditches her high and dry? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
All of it is strange. And no one wants to go to Williamsburg. Sorry.
Yeah, like let's try to play into this insane scenario where she wants to just seem like she's casually in Williamsburg. She casually turned down South by Southwest to be in Williamsburg, Virginia, which in itself is not viable. And then she just happens to bring her friends along, and she's supposed to like accidentally run into Aiden. Like, none of this is believable. Why would he, A? B, why would he care? And then C, exactly what you said, is like, what are the friends going to do? Because then when she casually runs into Aiden, they're chopped liver, right? So why would she say yes to this?
Why would you invite a third wheel on a trip to a different state? That's just like animal cruelty. I'm sorry. I would never do that. You know, one is at times in a third wheel type situation. I would like to go on record as saying I always feel bad when I put somebody in that position, but at least it's in my own damn city.
Yeah. At least I didn't get you to get on a plane.
Yeah. At least you didn't go down to frickin' Maryland to be with my parents and me and my boyfriend.
Right.
And
exactly.
you.
It's not even like you're going somewhere exotic. It's like
Williamsburg. And then of course Seema makes
Arby's.
the Williamsburg Brooklyn joke, and I was just like waiting for it. I set the egg timer, like how long is it gonna take?
Yeah, how long until were they excited about that on the writers podcast? God damn them.
It's a classic Michael Patrick King thing where it's like he sees Williamsburg and he like sees the opportunity for the joke of the Brooklyn thing, and it's so small when like the joke of Williamsburg colonial town is so big. And it's like, you could have gone for like the shark, and instead you went for the goldfish. And it's like, sir.
Yes, exactly. You're a writer. What are you doing?
Anyway. Then Kathy Aiden's wife calls.
Jesus Christ.
Big thing they point out in the writers podcast. They're like, see, she calls her his wife, not his ex-wife. What could that mean? Ooh, I'm like, it means nothing.
That tells me nothing. You sick people.
And Kathy needs Adderall for Wyatt. I think nothing made me curl my toenails more than hearing there's a nationwide shortage. There was like something about that sentence that just like, it's like there need to be topical, but in a way that feels so exposition-y, you know what I mean?
Yes,
it's like, we hear it's you, very COVID, like, you know?
Yes, exactly. They use the language of like super ripped from the headlines, and yet they're like 2 years late.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it falls like a thud. And then, I mean, even if it was topical, it'd be awkward, but it's just like, this is even hilarious because it's like, you're years late. But one person at the table is like, wow, really? And they're like, yeah, didn't you hear there's a shortage going on? As if this is breaking news. You know what I mean? Because like, he gets information on like a 3-year delay.
Right.
Apparently.
Well, then it's like on a 3-year extra delay because they filmed this like last summer. So by the time it comes out, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot that news story.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's so stupid.
So stupid.
And then what happens? With this fucking shortage? Excuse my French.
We can get into it later, but I will say I do love the Charlotte moment here.
The drug dealing.
Top note.
We'll get back to that.
We'll get back to it, but excellent. Okay, then we move on, and Miranda and Carrie are building a cat tower. Miranda's making the joke, like, do you think it's overkill, like, this tower for your cat? And I was sitting there being like, she's in a fucking goddamn 10-bedroom mansion. Who the fuck cares if the cat gets its own fucking room?
I know, that's like such a funny thing to be like, are you splurging on this tower, Carrie? It's like, who are you talking to?
Wake up. This whole scene was so frustrating. And then Carrie like gives her a key and then is like, guess what? When I go down to Virginia, I'm going to give Aiden a key. And then Miranda's like, talks about how she's going to ask Joy to, you know, happy hour. Again, we'll get to that later. And then Carrie like, oh God, she's like, you know, why are you playing these games with Joy? And Miranda basically is like, why are you playing games with Aiden? And then she's like, my life is really hard. And then Miranda's like, I guess I was being an asshole. Like, sorry. And I'm like, this whole scene is messed up.
I can't. Where do we start with this? Because you know that the writers, I'm sure, think that this was a normal reaction on Carrie's part. I don't think the audience is supposed to watch this scene and think that Carrie's the one who is being unreasonable.
Yes, exactly. The Writers Podcast comes from the point of view of like, we love a sarcastic Miranda, but like sometimes she goes too far. And I'm like, she actually really didn't go too far. Like Carrie
said the exact same thing to her.
Does this multiple times this episode, which I kind of liked and kind of hated, where Carrie gives herself her best advice. They didn't even call this out in the Writers Podcast, but I noticed it. There's 3 times this episode where Carrie gives somebody else advice that she should take herself. And I was like, I feel like that's intentional. Again, they literally didn't mention it at all on the Writers Podcast. And I was like, well, am I making the show smart secretly on the side?
I do think that's a symptom of you trying to find the diamond in the rough, and you pull out these moments of oh, there's a thing going on here, and it turns out
dead.
It was not even in their blueprint.
But it reminded me of, not to like shout ourselves out and like ego stroke here for a minute, but we have a moment when we were playing Baldur's Gate where one of the options was like, is everybody always going to blame me around here for everything that goes wrong? And that was like a dialogue choice for Carrie. And like, that's all I could hear in this scene is like, you have to stop playing games, Miranda. It's like, well, maybe you have to stop playing games, Carrie. Am I going to get blamed for everything that goes wrong? My life is hard. It was like, okay.
Good connection. God bless you, Marina. That is so accurate. It's like, am I going to get blamed for everything? Exactly. Spot on.
Yes.
It's like,
I actually don't think you should get sympathy for this weird relationship with Aiden. I think he's being really weird.
Yeah. I think he's being really weird. And I think by now you should trust that when your friends make incredibly soft jesting comments about it, you don't need to bite their head off, actually.
You could just let them be. But they're growing. See, Miranda's growing. She apologized.
Wait, before we move on, I gotta say something positive because I'm gonna get so negative as we're about to like descend into madness. So I gotta say one positive thing. I do like the touch that Cynthia Nixon did. I'm gonna assume it was on purpose to give her benefit of the doubt, of putting on the wrong piece of the cat tree for like the entire scene and then realizing and taking it off and putting on a different piece. But she was spinning the thing for the entire time and then realizes why it's not clicking is because it's the wrong thing. That's funny.
Excellent. Yeah, on second viewing, I was more captivated by the tree as well, the cat tree as well. And I was like, how does this thing even work? Snaps. So then we get to Carrie and Harry at the jean store. Big pin in that. But Seema calls Carrie, and basically this is where like Seema and Carrie's plots come together, which is basically that Seema is called into her partner at his office at work, and he says that he's retiring because he's 90. And even though they are partners together and presumably have been working together so long that he would give her dating advice, he doesn't tell her that this is coming, doesn't give her an opportunity to stay what she wants, just sells the majority stake to Ryan Serhant and never looks back.
Some partner.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I mean, it's like, again, we'll get into the insufferable too firm or not too firm discussion that is the rest of this episode. But like, would not work with these people. I don't know.
I think it's pretty clear what to do at this moment. But
also, aren't you rich enough?
Yeah. This is not. I don't. She's toiling over this decision so we can have
plot,
the illusion that she has a plot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyway, Ryan Serhant comes in. I'm glad he's got a gig. You know, he's cool. He's nice. I hate that they're going to turn him into a villain. That's really not true, but
I know.
The main villain of this episode are gay people, apparently.
I was just about to say the same thing. I was literally just to be like, well, unfortunately, he is in fact gay. And so on this episode, he has to get cast into one of two moral sides, and he has to be evil.
I think there are literally 5 gay villains in this episode. Let's start. Okay, this is our gay villain count. Happy Pride! Gay villain count 1 is the boss.
Okay.
Gay villain count 2 is Ryan Serhant.
Yes.
Gay villain count 3 is the flight attendant. Gay villain count 4 is the restaurant manager / festival runner / president of College of William and Mary.
Yes, 4.
We're at 4. And then Anthony is Giuseppe is a villain.
Yeah.
And Anthony's a perma villain. So we're at 6.
All right.
We're at 6 for the episode. Pretty good. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, everyone.
Anyway, so Seema calls to tell Carrie this devastating news and decides that she's going to go to Williamsburg because she needs a vacation. Again, she could literally jet off to anywhere, but whatever. We get
her ideal vacation in the face of such an insulting professional shift is to be a third wheel on her friend's trip to Williamsburg, Virginia.
And just last season, she said, I'm not going to go be a third wheel in the Hamptons this summer. Not again. And yet, here she is.
Oh, get him. Oh, Marina, you are so on the fucking case. Excuse my French again.
Yeah. So, Seema is coming and she rolls up to Carrie's house to pick her up, and the hot gardener is there. And as we saw in the teaser at the end of last episode, like really flirts hard with Seema in a way that, again, makes me feel like, is he going to fuck them both? Is that going to be the tension? Are they going to fight over this man?
I didn't think of that. Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe they're just gonna forget that this happened and be like, "Oh, he's just a flirty guy," and then he'll go back to Carrie, no problem. It's gonna be really jarring if he ends up with Carrie, but I can't tell.
Yeah. I'm putting my money on Seema, but already I gotta say, I'm kind of already sick of the gardener. Can I say? Like, he talks the same as everyone else in the show, which is like forced, uncomfortable wittiness that isn't witty. You know what I mean? He like needs to talk in quips. He can't just like talk like a person. And I find
the New
that
York
really
plant Picasso that didn't get you.
No, Marina, it did not.
I've never met a kitty I couldn't bend.
Oh my god!
I'm like, why are we bending cats out here? Stop.
What does that mean?
Yeah,
I'm over it. I'm over like Temu Smith-Jarrett. Enough.
It is amazing. First of all, get me that shirt. Second of all, it is amazing how they are able to just drain the chemistry out of somebody. This man came on with like a radiant chemistry, and they just attached a hose to his butthole and they just sucked it out raw.
Nothing good can stay on this show.
Nothing good is allowed. Casting on this show, I have to say, is phenomenal.
Yeah, they are the only ones pulling their weight every day.
And they must be watching their clients in this show being like, well, all I can hope is that they get boosted to a CW show. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, well, all I can hope is that this gets them on the pit.
Right. Their pit audition.
But then Carrie and Seema are off on the plane where they meet the bitchy flight attendant. There's this whole moment where like, I don't even think they've taken off yet because Seema's like standing and he's saying you have to sit for the plane to take off.
Yeah, what's going on? The amount of jokes in this episode, I feel like it kicked into high gear, but this has been a problem through the whole show of like the girls not knowing how the world fucking works. I'm sorry, I'm swearing so bad. I just it's like they don't know how to react to a plane. They're like putting on the thing and standing in the aisle, and the guys on the intercom being like, please sit down, please sit down, please sit down. And they're just like suddenly deaf to the world and then immediately asks for alcohol before we've taken off. You know what I mean? There's just such a like, the joke seems to be about like how rude the world is and how rude all these gays are, but like Seema and Carrie don't seem to understand how the world works in every situation they're in.
No, the point of this scene is that Seema is such a fabulous diva that she acts like this on planes, per the writing podcast.
Why are they flying coach anyway? If this is about her being a diva.
Coach? Second of all, like, why my thing that gets me that I'm stuck on is like, she's like, where's my tequila soda? Which like, whatever, is annoying and demanding. And then he's like, sorry, vomit comes first. I'm like, who threw up on the plane before it took off?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And then we have this thing that's like, why do gay men never give me what I want? Which is like a reoccurring runner, which again goes to our prior theory that gays are villainous.
Yes, exactly. This is the joke they're going to beat in is like, isn't it so funny that gays never give you what you want? Gays who work service jobs never give you what you want. I'm like, I can't unpack this.
I'm not a fan. But then Carrie and Seema arrive in Virginia and they are eating at this, again, restaurant in the middle of College of William and Mary, who knows? And
don't know where we are.
Carrie gives the depressing line, I'm my guy's number 4. Wake up, girl. And then Seema defends Aiden, which like, okay, where she's like, well, you know, he is trying really hard. I'm like, I guess. And then if you call this trying hard. And then here Seema reveals she's going to start her own firm. She's going to call it the Patel Group, whatever. And then, as we said, the restaurant festival president manager comes over and says that the menus have changed and the fried chicken that Seema was so looking forward to is no longer on the menu. And this is where I pressed pause and I said, is Virginia really known for fried chicken?
I don't know if I need to go on my rant right now, but this is the scene that broke me.
Take us.
Because like, all right, here we go. I think why this really upset me or just like made me need to take a pause was because this was the like, the underlying theme I have taken away from 3 seasons of this godforsaken show is that change is bad. Like, that is the theme across kind of all of the characters' stuff. Arguably even Miranda's, if you take the metatextual thing of, like, Cynthia Nixon is gay and wanted a gay character, and that's why Miranda changed very drastically and has all those other things going on. But aside from that, it's like, everyone experiences this in some ways, that change is bad. And, like, things in the past were better. And, like, that's true in the plot lines of Carrie just recycling through all of her exes and stuff like that. But also, like, just in the humor of this show, everything is like a iteration of, you know, these people, these youngins, they're more like diverse and complicated and queer. Isn't that so confusing and overwhelming? These like people are taking away your fancy steak and fried chicken and giving you like air fried vegetables. Isn't that awful? These liberals, they're ruining my life. You know what I mean? They make a joke about like gays never give you what you want, but it's like, I think they've kind of made this joke a few times, which is about like the youths, the service workers are all rude now, you know, and it's kind of not a coincidence, I feel, that all the service workers they generally interact with tend to be younger. Mm-hmm. So that, like, Carrie gets to be, like, the old wise person and be, like, the boomer in the room to go around and be like, when back in my day, they weren't so rude. Why is everyone rude to me? Like, even when she's picking up the rental key for the car later and finds out her license is expired, she, like, does her little sort of, you know, head bow thing of, oh, it's been a long time since I've been carded, let me tell you. You know, it's like, every interaction she has is reminding people how much older and wiser she is. And so I like, and the other characters too, but especially Carrie. So I feel like it's part of this whole thesis of like boomerness that is in this whole show, which is like new things are bad and complicated. Where I think it gets sinister is stuff like this, where it's like, quote unquote, new things are bad and complicated goes beyond just like, my alarm is beeping and I don't know. Apps are so weird these days. And goes into realms of like, gay people are rude, young people are rude. Charlotte's coworkers we're going to see are kind of like what we always see in terms of like, the youth are diverse. It's like one person of color. There's one person who's genderqueer. There's one person who's body positive, and they're all so strange and we can't keep up. Like, that's when it starts to get really sinister and like where I feel like I need to take a pause, because I'm like, this show is very surprisingly dark. And I think this is the episode that made me realize it drives you a little bit crazy, because you feel like the episode is like really soft, right? You're like, where's the teeth? Where's the witticism of like Sex and the City? What happened? And it's like, that is true. It is very sanded down. It is like, it's much more like Hallmark, that whereas Sex and the City was much more like HBO, right? So it is like soft and palatable in that way. But if you like listen to what they're saying and like watch as much as we have of this show, which I think is more than any godly human has ever,
more than they've watched for sure.
More than they've watched and thought about it. It's actually a very dark show. It's very cynical. I don't like where the undertone is going, you know what I mean? And that has been going through this whole goddamn show. So by the time we got to this scene, I needed to take a break, because I'm like, I cannot do the gay people are ruining my life. I don't want them to be so visible anymore. You know, it's like, I can't do that. I just cannot do this kind of like nihilism. You know what I mean?
I feel like, first of all, snaps. Second of all, I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong, but the problem is like, in these kinds of shows, like I've never watched The Conners, you know, the updated Roseanne show, but like, or even Golden Girls, like there is an element to it that's like, haha, let's make fun of the youths are dumb. Like that's that's a tale as old as time. Right. The problem is that those episodes usually end with maybe the older people learning a lesson. Like whoever is the more stubborn person learns a lesson. So if the young people are like, oh, you olds, go die. By the end of the episode, they're like, oh, maybe old people have wisdom. Or if the older person is like stubborn, it's like, maybe the youths are onto something. And this show never makes that leap. It always sort of hovers in midland where like, you know what I mean? Like this season, it's so clear, we'll get into it, that they've made Rock just like a person who recites slogans of positive things. And it's like, but that is for them, I think that's like a joke bag, as opposed to being like, oh, maybe they have something to say. I always think about the Barbat, the they, them mitzvah, you know, like that could have been an opportunity to like say something about traditional versus modern or whatever. But we walked away with that, from that being like, Rock is just a brat and is embarrassing their whole family. And like, that is really shitty, you know, like I feel like, to your point, yes. What's frustrating is that we get this joke over and over and over again with no sort of, I think they just see it as I'm learning through the writer's podcast, through, again, the ungodly amount of hours we've put into this show. It's like Michael Patrick King is a jokes guy first, and it doesn't help him because I don't think he's realizing that by repeating these jokes over and over again, that's the narrative he's setting.
100%. I think that Rock example is the perfect pull of like a thing that we have the seeds and the bones to go in another direction, but we always curve into something that's like kind of, it's very stuck in stasis and very kind of negative.
Even the Adderall thing with like, I think they thought it was funny that like Carrie's acting as if she's like a drug dealer or whatever, you know, and she's like hiding it in her bra and like stuff like that. And it's like, are we not over the ADHD like stigma? Like, is this not just like normal now? I don't know. I almost thought she was going to take one. I feel like that would be more interesting. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, whatever, all the kids talk about it. Like, I don't know, let me try it. And then like wigs out. That's more interesting to me than like Carrie thinks she's in Scarface. Like, okay, I hate to tell you, but everybody has them.
Right. There's nothing actually like interesting we're saying about this, but it is like to use your phrase, like joke bag.
Right.
You know, it's a thing we're gonna kind of like constantly knock and, you know, over and over and over. Ha ha, how weird is this thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, Mama's going heart healthy.
Yeah. All right.
Aiden and Carrie.
Just change the menu. Okay.
Aiden and Carrie talk on the phone. He's just like super friendly, but like doesn't invite her over. And she's like tore a butthole about it because she's like, he should have asked me over. And then Seema, and this is another one of those moments where Seema shows up with the KFC again. Why? And is, you know, they're talking, and then she's like, oh, should I take the firm? You know, my name belongs up there. And then Carrie's like, well, maybe you can ask to have a shared partnership. You know, if you don't ask, you don't get. And then Carrie's like, also, I'm mad that Aiden didn't invite me over to his house. And then Seema's like, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I'm like, yeah, we've already done this twice now.
Yeah. And good call on you earlier, seriously, for catching that she's giving out all the advice that keeps getting thrown back at her. Yeah, I'm over it. I mean, it's like, it's, again, with the mature Carrie, I mean, she's able to give that advice and yet she's sitting here being like, well, I didn't ask him if I could hang out with him, but I'm mad that he didn't ask if he could hang out with me. And it's like, this is cute if you're like 18, you know?
Right.
I don't find this very like believable anymore.
Right. Then they're at the rental shop, which, as you mentioned, my main complaint with this whole scene is the ID should have expired in 2004. 2017 is like too recent to be funny.
No, absolutely not.
It should be some ungodly date.
I don't even want to know when my mother's driver's license is expired, okay? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Let's ramp that up.
Then Carrie and Seema are driving. We get, to your point, we get like 18 jokes about how maps used to be good. And then Seema's like, I need a map for my life. And my boyfriend said, good God. That's all he said. He was like fully playing a video game on his phone and then just went, oh, good God.
It's bad. It's so bad. There's like nothing else we can say about the writing in the car scene, and in the scene we're about to get into with the tires is maybe one of the worst I think we've seen.
Yes. Then Ryan tries to FaceTime Seema while she's driving, and Carrie's like, you can't take that, pull into a parking lot. And then Carrie's like, I'm going to leave you alone for this scene that we're just going to take off camera. And then Carrie just miraculously walks back into the car a questionable amount of time later. And then Seema's like, well, I asked if they would put my name, and, you know, they said that it's not possible. And so then she's like, well, you know, there's nothing wrong with being a number two. I guess I'll accept it. And then the amount of time I put into figuring out how the fuck this car park works, because I was like, didn't they drive in on the wrong side? I like couldn't figure it out.
They drove in on the correct side because it's flat, right? It's like the spikes are curved, so they did drive in. What's wrong about it is the sign is on the wrong side. Okay. So like the sign is supposed to be facing outward saying don't back up, so that when you drive in, you see a sign saying don't back up. It makes no sense because they flipped the sign over. So when she's facing forward to exit, it says don't back up.
Yes. Okay, that's what threw me. I think they put it there because they want you to know that the comedy is coming.
They want you to know that Seema doesn't want to back up in her life.
Right. It's a sign in the form of a literal sign. But I had to like press and play the scene multiple times because I got really disoriented about what direction the spike is. Like I got really thrown by the whole direction of the scene.
Yeah. It's I mean, yeah. It's just that the sign is wrong. But they were like, this is definitely worth it because this payoff is so worth it.
It's so big. At this point, again, my boyfriend turned to me and said, who is this woman who's terrible at life? And that made me really mad because I was like, Seema's always been the one woman to have her life together. So they have just made her dumb this episode.
Exactly. Thank you. This is the like, I think I said last episode where I'm moving from disappointed to angry with what's going on with Seema, where like again and again she just goes through a plot where like someone makes her doubt herself, she doubts herself, and then she shows them that she's her own woman and she can do anything. This is just that again, except instead of a guy, it's the law
partner
firm
thing.
Sorry, not law firm, real estate partner thing. So like, this is the same exact beats of the plot, and to your point, why is Seema so thrown and so questioning this? We know where she's going to land. Not because we've just seen it 50 times already, but also, like, isn't she supposed to be, like, the confident one?
She's the one who's like, Carrie, you have to go see a doctor. I've got 12 doctors on call. Like, that's her whole thing. And maybe they're trying to tell us, like, oh, her life's coming apart and that's why she's falling apart suddenly. But again, it's the dumbification disease has left Miranda. And so it is like passing through the others to figure out who will accept the dumbification trophy. And I am scared. I'm scared.
Yeah.
Well, they're so silly that when Aiden comes and says the goober shows up, that's a hillbilly Uber, at which point I said, shouldn't be a Hoober. What's a goober? Again, I was like, whatever, it doesn't matter. My life is more precious than these seconds.
It almost sounds like he said gooner, and it's like, yes, Aiden, you are the gooner. You are jacking off in your truck every night. But hang on, you skipped over, obviously she rolls over the spikes for no reason, because she's like stupid all of a sudden and everyone doesn't know how the world works all of a sudden in the show, and then goes like, oh my god, what happened? And then Carrie just looks at her like, didn't you see the sign? And it's like, Carrie, you were just sitting there silently while that whole thing happened.
You didn't even scream. I know. And then
could not be written worse. Just could not be. If this was a writing assignment that was like, make this scene worse, I don't know what else I could add.
Other than, you were driving.
Yeah.
You made this necklace? Okay. Well, it continues because they left their damn suitcases in the rental car. Again, it's like, and then like they like awkwardly cut after they discover that they left their suitcases in the car. What? And you're like, what? And then we like never see the follow through on that. And it's like, oh, because we had to make Carrie downtrodden so that she only had one bag. But here's my thing. We started this episode making a whole point about how she was traveling Golightly. She only had like 2 tote bags anyway. So like, if you wanted to make that point, she should have had like 3 suitcases and like couldn't decide what outfit to wear. And now has to travel. Like, that's how that comedy works. Is like, lots of suitcases to no suitcases. There's no comedy in 2 tote bags to 1 tote bag.
Yes, thank you. That's a good note. That's a very good note. And then least of all to just like not explain that. They just go, oh, our luggage. And then cut away and we never hear. So that also, big question mark over what the hell is Seema supposed to do, because she has now lost her luggage and she's now abandoned in Williamsburg, Virginia.
No, she has a new life in New York that she has to miraculously run to somehow, you know, because the Williamsburg International Airport is right there. I can't. Aiden invites Carrie over. She's excited. Seema has this god-awful line where Aiden like gets in the car or whatever, and she's like, Aiden, don't back up. I'm like, it's not funny. It wasn't funny the first time. It's not funny now.
It's not funny. You're just a goddamn fool.
Carrie.
You're a goddamn fool.
Carrie shows up at Aiden's and he's like, my boys they're asleep and I can't let them know you're here yet. I got to tell them in the morning. So you're going to sleep in the guest house. Like a orphan. Nice. And she's like, yeah, I'll sleep standing up like a horse. And he's like, actually, it's a cow. And I'm like, okay, all of you are cows. This whole scene is just a bunch of cows. And
terrible.
And I'm gonna pin this now. This Adderall thing better pay off, because when she gave him the Adderall, it was like the weirdest. Like, I was waiting for him to be like, I actually don't know why Kathy called you. Like, I don't think my son should be on drugs thing. I feel like that's coming, which is also like a plot from like 2015. I don't know. Yeah. It's just like, I was like, let it die, but also I'm mad and it's weird. That's all I have to say.
No, you're exactly correct. And like I had the same reaction of like, I really want this to pay off, because I think this might be the first time we have experienced this whole season where something is being set up.
Maybe. Question mark.
But we don't know. And then also we don't know what the payoff's going to be. It might just be garbage. But like, it could be something interesting. But to your point, I kind of don't even know what, because this is already very well trodden territory by like better shows and setups. Also, I think we've reached the point where like, sorry, I think we need to kind of call out what is going on with Wyatt, because like we've kind of just hand waved like he's troubled, but like we're not like saying anything. So we just sort of dump excuses on him of like, oh no, Aiden can't have phone sex now because like Wyatt's sleeping in his bed. He had a weird night. You know, it's like I need an explanation of what's going on. You know what I mean? Just if he's gonna be this impactful on the plot, you can't just like hand wave and be trying, because it's like they don't want to call it out because they need him, because they don't want to have to do research on anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you call out like what the deal is, you have to like own that. And so we're gonna keep it really vague, but then that just makes him and his troubledness like a big plot like hammer. You know what I mean? Oh, we need something to like interrupt them. Wyatt's sleeping and we can't wake him up, or the whole house will like get set on fire. You know, it's like, yeah. Or oh, we really need Aiden to come look at the house. Oh, he can't. Wyden's really trouble. And then it just makes the whole rule seem even more insane, because it's like whatever his trouble is does not automatically go away when he turns 18. And we discussed this last season too, where it's like, if it's just, I want to be with my boys until they go off to college, that'd be one thing. But we've set this up in a really weird, ambiguous, very serious, but not very serious because we don't want to say what it is way that like, we've really backed ourselves into a corner. So the fact that Carrie's sitting in the guest house, all I can think the whole time is why, right? Like, what is the issue?
Right.
That is keeping her from sitting in the house.
I am so scared and yet so interested in how they're going to pull off next episode when the whole episode seems to be her hanging out with the boys.
Oh, I did not see the preview.
The preview is like she's hanging out with them boys in Norfolk. I don't even think other people are in the episode. I think it's 40 minutes of her walking around, spinning around in the grass, being like fiddly-dee and having the boys there. And I'm like, I cannot wait to see how he is represented. Because to your point, for lack of a better term, he has been sort of a boogeyman that they have sort of assigned everything to. And I'm like, I can't wait to see what kind of performance they ask of this child actor to produce for us. That's all I'll say about that. And then Carrie ends on her dumbass voiceover that I cannot fucking stand. And Michael Patrick King on the Writers Podcast was like complimenting one of the writers, being like, you wrote this eloquent, beautiful like poetry. I'm like, what is it saying? She arrived, she lost her bags, and it's the cold unknown night. Heard it. You know who did that first? Fucking Dickens. Wake up.
I think they're laughing at us because they can't honestly read that. I feel like deep down they read that and they don't think, wow, this is really groundbreaking, this is really poetic and lovely. I think they read that and go, hell yeah, I'm gonna get my paycheck. And then they lie to us on this podcast.
They go, hell yeah, SJP and MPK, 3 initials, all of them, gonna be so happy.
Yeah, all 6 initials are gonna be delighted with this.
It was at this point that the episode ended and my boyfriend turned to me and said, I cannot believe that you watched this show this much.
I can't either.
He was like, I'm scared you're taking lessons from this show. And I think that's the meanest thing anyone has ever said to me. And I was bullied in middle school. I think that is the meanest thing anyone has ever said to me. And I couldn't quite communicate it to him in the moment, but know that I'm sweating right now. Sweating.
You know it's bad because Marina is telling me all of this while turning a little bit pink and also with a big smile on her face. That's when you know it's serious, is when there's a big smile on her face and she goes, I'm sweating. You know she's upset.
I show my sadness in a very unusual way, and it's usually with a smile. Anyway,
I worry you're taking stuff from this show.
Something for me to work on. Let's blitz through these other plots, shall we? Because they're all 2 scenes each, which is a relief for once.
That's hilarious. Thank you for counting.
Miranda shows up at the bread at Hot Fellas. She loves the bread. She's pushing the bread. She then is at Carrie's Spill the Cat thing, says she's going to ask Joy to happy hour as a cover because, and the cover she's going to use is that Joy is going to teach her how to be better on air, but really she's still trying to suss out of this woman who's clearly into her if she wants to date or not. And then Miranda's out with Joy, and Joy teaches her to breathe, and it is lightly sensual. I would say it's almost like Carol-esque, that movie Carol-esque, where it's like we're touching gloves and that's enough.
Yeah, I think we've moved to 1.5 bases with just the scene alone.
And that's every scene she's in this episode.
That's it. Wait, we don't see a follow-up from the hand on the boobies?
No.
Oh, okay. I guess I was so distraught by everything else that was happening, I forgot we never went back to that.
We never went back to that. That's the last time Miranda's in this episode. It's a fine scene. I don't have problems. Again, this Joy woman has the charisma and the magnetism of a fucking star, and I can't wait for them to ruin it.
Yeah. I can't wait for her to get with the gardener.
Who's the gardener, by the way, who I forgot to mention, like, they introduce a brother of his that, like,
what?
Has some sort of, I don't know what, but is very specific about the car in a way that makes me feel like
he's coded.
They're setting something up.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask again why the sidekick has a sidekick. I don't know why we're taking that lesson from, Disney, where like it's not enough to have the raccoon. We have to have the raccoon and the pug and the hummingbird. And I would just like to ask you why. Pick one. Pick one.
The gardener's son or whatever. God,
it's his brother, Jamie. I had to write it down.
Oh, it's his brother.
He's coming back. Yeah, I think it's his brother or his cousin. Fuck if I know. Okay. Anthony has opened Hot Fellas, which, by the way, was like they found an abandoned place for lease on the Upper East Side and like actually built a Hot Fellas just to shoot these scenes in, but like never opened it. And then I think they've done a promo the past 2 weeks where it has been open and you like can get bread. I will not be going. I do not want to endorse.
No, we can't support these people. We're divesting.
Yeah, we are absolutely divesting. He's opening and he's mad because the store isn't doing immediately well. And he's like, where's LTW? And then LTW, he goes to the guys outside and he says, this is Hot Fellas, not Dead Fellas. That made me laugh. And then, wouldn't you know it, LTW storms in like the fucking Riddler dressed in that outfit that is both embarrassing and incredible. Like I want it, and also I had to cover my eyes. Like,
yeah, I don't know where they're doing with LTW's outfits, but they seem to want another person to like play with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
They have their Carrie doll, and they want another doll to like play with. And,
yes.
Okay. This is also another example of this show telling us what someone's deal is instead of ever showing us, because Anthony says something like, where's LTW, and her gaggle of Upper East Side bombs, and then she like leads them in. As if we didn't just see the last episode of her trying to be like, wait, how do I get in touch with the college counselor? And everyone like iced her out. You know what I mean?
No, I know. It's very confusing. I feel like there was some sort of thing here where they were like, LTW is the mom influencer and Charlotte is definitely not. And I was like, she has an Instagram for her dog that is wildly popular.
Yeah.
Whatever. Again, whatever the service is, the joke in the moment is the what the plot is.
Yeah.
So then when we were at the dinner with Charlotte that we'll get to later, Anthony managed to get a dig in at Giuseppe, being like, Giuseppe helps everybody with their businesses, but not with mine. Because basically we learned that Giuseppe refuses to suit up anymore because it's objectification and sexualization. To which, of course, Rock says, yeah, you go, G, right on, G. It's even worse. And I'm upset. And then wouldn't you know it, Anthony decides to whore himself out in his own Hot Fellas uniform. He even unzips it a little bit, which did make me laugh. And then Giuseppe shows up, suited up once again to save the day.
Cut it. I don't care.
Cut it. My thing is, I feel like we needed one more thing from Giuseppe being like, if you wear the suit, I'll wear the suit. And then Anthony being like, no. And then Anthony like holding the suit in the mirror and being like, okay, that would at least have closed this for me. Instead, it's just like, okay, this man just defended himself as it being sexualization. And now we're just going to sexualize him.
Yeah. And then in the next scene, he just shows up and is sexualized.
As you would say, sinister. Then we have LTW and she's working on her project. She comes in, to bond with her editor at work, and her editor tells her that she is leaving to work on a Stephen McQueen documentary. He must be excited to get this much play. in this show.
This is the best thing that's ever happened to him.
And I'll say that this editor lady, like, yeah, she's leaving abruptly and like they're friends, et cetera, et cetera. But she even offers a short list of editors to like bring in. Like, she is more than generous. LTW, though, has a fucking meltdown, says this is not a celebration. Then we get into this really weird exchange. This was the exchange that made me want to take a break, which is where LTW, because the woman's like, it's taken 8 years. It was only supposed to take 1. Like, I need to sort of move on. And LTW is like, well, it took 8 years because I decided to have children. And then the editor's like, well, I don't have children. My work is my life. And I was like, what are we? There's multiple times in this episode where it's like, sometimes you don't have to say it out loud. Sometimes I can just see it happen. I could see it happen. Anyway, then she goes home and she abuses the hell out of some mashed potatoes. And Chris Jackson basically is like, you're crazy. And then she's like, you're crazy.
Yeah, this is just boring. Because it's like, it's just, what's most interesting thing about her plot is how explicitly unsupportive she is for someone who so prides herself on this champion of women's stories and like supporter of women, and I only work with women, I'm doing documentary stories about women, and then here's like an actual woman she works with,
right,
who she's like horribly mistreating,
right,
and using her power over, and like we know where she's gonna land because we have one more scene left and it has to get resolved immediately, but it sucks and it's boring, and like, no offense to Chris Jackson, get that bag or whatever, but it's like him coming in to just be like, you're crazy, and her just being like, boo you, and then the next scene she's like done, is not really interesting. You know what I mean? It's more interesting in Sex and the City when the girls like behave badly and then another girl tells them off and they have some sort of exchange about it.
Yeah, and you can see that they sort of like, I don't know, see the error of their ways. I think you make such an excellent point, which is I feel like in order to really drive this home, he should have been like, I'm sorry, are you not working on a documentary for the last 8 years about championing women? Right. And then we could have had a classic MPK joke of like, are you a man telling me when to support women? Like, I'll even give it to them. I'll even give them that for free. Again, hire me. I would love to work on this program. Anyway, point is, my thing that kills me about this scene is in the writers' podcast, MPK spoke about how apparently the woman, Nicole Ari Parker, is the LTW actress, and she showed up to set wearing her glasses, and Michael Patrick King was like, why are you wearing your glasses? Remember to take your glasses off. And she was like, no, because she was in work mode and she got home and was still frustrated in work mode, so she would still be wearing her glasses. And he was like, it was incredible, the amount of work Nicole put into like thinking about the moment before the scene and what kind of state she was in. And I was listening to this and I was like, God, I hope Nicole Ari Parker gets something good from this, because that is such a nice, fun touch. Like at first I was like, oh, she's wearing her glasses, she looks goofy. You know what I mean? And then hearing that, I was like, oh, that's actually like really smart and really thoughtful. And I hope that one day she's taken care of.
Yeah. I guess. Like she's an orphan. It's like, I hope one day she finds a happy home.
Yep. And then when she makes up with the editor, and the editor then this is the other problem I have, which is like, she apologizes to the editor, and then the editor basically has to like give her a Go Glen Coco speech where she's like, you are you, and you have you, and that's all you need. And the headcanon I'm writing is that the editor was like, I just need to tell this woman whatever I need to tell her to get her off my back.
That's good. I like that. Let's accept that, because this was miserable. I agree. It's like, instead of apologizing to her last maybe 10 seconds, the rest of the scene is her being like, I just hyping her up. I feel for the editors who worked on this episode and had to edit this scene where the editor tells the producer, I'm nothing without you and your creative vision. And I say this as a producer. That's like so disrespectful for her to be like, it's only your creative vision. This would be nothing without you. My talent is nothing. It's like, Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm also a part of this. But you can tell that they don't really respect editors that well by the way they put together these episodes.
True. Actually, that's true. It's a very good point. You know what? Got him.
Got
Got
them.
him.
Nothing
That's it.
but respect to editors. I don't know what union they're a part of, but nothing respect to that union.
That's
And
IATSE.
it is IATSE. Okay. Pro IATSE here, pro editor. We see you and we're
See you,
sorry.
and we stand you, and we're sorry.
And then that's that. My thing is now my boyfriend and I just go, Steve McQueen. That's our inside joke now.
Okay.
The way that Chris Jackson goes, Steve McQueen, it's like, it's too good. Too
Yeah.
good. And then last but not least, we have Charlotte, which I have to say, after such a confusing downer of an episode, I feel like they actually kind of knocked this one out of the park. I really have no complaints about this plot, except one, it's very glaring. And when we get there, it'll be obvious. And you at home know what I'm talking about. But aside from that, I thought like, this is the Charlotte plot I want to be seeing. Juggling mom and work in a way that's fun and involves more work than kids.
Yes. 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 I do kind of feel like it is a little confusing for me. I think I kind of wish this had more time, which is crazy to say about these plots when we're usually just sort of like cut it entirely. I actually wish this one I had more time with the setup because I'm already like, I don't really know why Harry's involved on this quest to be fun and cool.
Well, you do know it's that they want him to piss himself because it's a funny joke. But I had the same question. I said, cut Harry. Why is he here?
Yeah, let's just make it the other thing. And then make, like, I'd buy it more if it was like, the girls at the gallery, I'm working with people who are younger and cooler than me, and they're going to go out after. So I want to do it too, instead of being a mom and make my work friends. Because, like, to your point, we haven't seen any challenges related to the work yet. So, like, that's kind of fun. I don't really know why we spend time with Harry and
take him to a dark place. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
That's my one complaint is that they should have cut this whole this Harry business, but they couldn't resist the idea of him pissing himself in jeans that are too cool for him.
Yeah.
To which I ask, why? A nightmare.
And it's sad too. And they don't treat it as sad. You know what I mean? Like, this is so sad for him.
The way that he's like, let me get some quick selfies for the gram. And then he looks at the picture after and is like, well, thank God the jeans are dark. You can't tell that they're soaked. I
wanted to throw up. I was like, I want to throw up in my mouth and swallow it and throw it up again.
Again. My boy. What have they done to my boy?
Like, what have they done to my boy?
I was just like, again, in my head canon, it didn't happen. In my head canon, it's like
go straight to partying
with
with the girl. Because, like, I also don't, the event doesn't really make sense. Like, Charlotte's talking work with another woman that's like dressed like her, you know, with the pearls and like nice sweater. And they're like talking about the gallery. And then the German guy's like talking about the pieces. And all of a sudden other people come in and they're like, shots! You know what I mean? I'm like, let's just go straight to party. You know, it's like, you're at the event in the gallery. And then the girls are like, we're all going to go to a club. And then Charlotte gets pulled along to that, you know, rather than this weird, I don't understand what this event is. You know what I mean? Just like keep it nice and simple and let's just go to the party sillies.
Yeah, I agree. But anyway, as I said, we start off with her in the Breadfellas scene. She has that amazing scene where she procures the Adderall from the Upper East Side moms. And this is actually a setup that pays off later. The Steve McQueen, you know, because I thought the women that they cast were perfect. I don't know. There was a smoothness to the scene where I was like, they can do it. You know what I mean? I was like, this is fun.
I hate to nitpick. I do wish that then this wasn't set up as like, there's an Adderall shortage and us like rinky-dink people in Virginia can't get them. Can you use your New York connections? And then these women are like tripping over themselves to give out Adderall. There is something that was like, I feel like this was set up to be fun and goofy, but because of the context, it just feels like, isn't it so nice that rich people get to have everything they want for free?
Yes, I agree. I don't think that was their intention, but it is the truth. But it is what they said. And then my one nitpick for this scene is that LTW has a line that's like, oh, moms, Upper East Side moms are like bartering for any sort of drugs. It's like DC in the 80s. And I'm like, hey,
What does that even mean?
make fun of New York. That's
It's
where
like
you
New
are.
York in the 80s.
Get off my back.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what?
DC alone.
Is DC known for Adderall? Like what's...
I don't know.
Why did we go there?
Is it known for drugs? I'm like, is Baltimore not known more for drugs? Anyway, I fixated
New York
on
was
it.
like a war zone in the 70s.
Yeah,
You know what I
thank
mean?
you.
It's like...
Thank you.
I don't understand why. It was so weird. I was like, I feel like this is an insider joke that I'm not getting.
That I'm not getting, yeah. Then we see Charlotte at TFAF, which is this made-up event, to your point. And the Gallerinos are all there, and they're all hungover, and they're like, oh, you should have come out with us last night. You know, we sold all these paintings, and she's realizing that, like, she's losing out on business by not going to the... Again, solid, to me, a setup I'm into. You know, like, she's not able to do as much selling as these other girls because she can't party into the night, and I want to see that.
Mm-hmm.
She goes home, opens with, my career is suffering because I am a mother and a wife. I just cringe. I'm just like nails on a chalkboard. Like,
Enough.
why do we say why are you saying it
Say
out
the
loud?
thing. Why do we say exactly? Correct.
And then, of course, Lily and Rock are like, stop exaggerating. You're being dramatic. And I'm glad that they got put in their place finally, because I was like, I cannot handle these two just walking all over this poor woman. You screamed at getting your period.
Yeah.
Then, you know, Harry makes the joke that he's SpongeBob's square partner, and later he'll make the joke that he's SpongeBob wet pants. And again,
Not funny either time.
neither funny. And then scene ends with Charlotte being like, that's it, I'm going to go clubbing. And Harry's like, me too. And then they're like, you need to get better clothes. And then they're like, Carrie can help you find better clothes. Great. Then we get this Harry and Carrie scene, which, like, the writers are so obsessed with. They're like, we've never seen Harry and Carrie together. Let's put them together in a scene. It's like they saw the Harry and Steve scenes and they were like, more of that, please. And it's like, yeah, but those were good. And this is awful.
They had something to talk about. Like that, I feel like betrays their thinking, a lot of these things of like, oh, we haven't seen this combination of people. Let's put them together. Oh, we haven't seen LTW in a stupid ass necklace. Let's put that on her. It's like these are just like made for like them to just like play around with and like make gifs of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not really like with any semblance of what's going on in the zine. Because yeah, like this is the first time we see Carrie and Harry together. They don't talk about anything together. Carrie spends most of the scene on a call.
Right. And here's my point of complaint, which is if you're going to be putting him in cool jeans and like dressing him like a doll, then don't joke about potentially putting him in a bucket hat. He should have been in the silliest bucket hat of all time. That was a missed opportunity. Yeah, exactly. And not to be, you know, hat watch, but like hat watch, we should have gotten a big dumb bucket hat. I would have loved that. Instead, we get him pissing on himself because he can't figure out how to unzip his jeans. We already talked about it. What more is there to say? It's an abomination that never happened, and I will deny.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just don't need it. Like, we don't need 10,000 things that we miss about Samantha. What I miss about Samantha that Seema is apparently not providing is that, like, we don't have anyone in this group that has an ounce of confidence in themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and Samantha had her own issues of like self-love and self-esteem and all these other complicated things, but like she owned who she was. You know what I mean? She like went into the bar with Smith Jarrett and a bunch of youngins and was like kind of disgusted and bored with it and was like, I'm over this scene. And ends up stumbling into her ex instead. Like, she was able to walk into a room of like quote unquote cool young people and feel like, I'm above this. This is not my scene. I'm too cool for this.
Right.
Every single person on the show looks at a young cool person and goes, oh, I need to be like that. Why am I not cool? Like, all of them are so not confident and insecure in all of the same ways. You know what I mean? And they all have the same reaction to like young cool people. And Harry does not need to join this miserable train. No. I need one person to just kind of own who they are, please.
Yeah, and it really superfluous to the whole thing. I just think they wanted somebody in awkward clothes, and they're insistent on embarrassing this man.
Yeah.
And this is the closest they've come to succeeding, and it was actually really sad and disappointing and upsetting. Yeah. Sinan watched the pissing scene twice. Okay. Charlotte's at the party.
I'll put a pin in that.
And one of the Gallerinas explains to her, I'm in love with Dutch, who's basically this Dutch man who's actually named Rolf, who they're like, she's been successful in selling paintings to him, but she also wants to have sex with him. She then tells her coworker, you need to help me. I felt his dick through his pants and I almost came, which I'm like, what? And then we find out they're going to go to the after party, even though it's 3 a.m. So they order Charlotte a bunch of espresso martinis. So now she's able to dance the night away and be high because of espresso martinis.
And to your point about the look, can we just see it and stop saying the thing that we're already saying? Let's have a goofy dance montage where we see Kristen Davis give us her silliest take on dancing instead of just her going, I love espresso martinis. I love staying out. I love the club. I think that's word for word what she says. Just, I love this. I love this. I love this.
I forget if it was which episode it was of the last two where we were like, this would really benefit from a montage. This was another one where I was like, this would have really benefited from a montage.
Yeah.
Of seeing her trying to get with Rolf, and then we could see Charlotte trying to set her up, and he's looking at her. I feel like they could have done a lot in montage here that would have been nice.
Yeah.
But maybe they did that last episode when she went partying. I don't remember. And so maybe they thought it would be too repetitive. I don't know. All I'm saying is that it is inappropriate to be asking your coworker to help you fuck some guy.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
And
a guy that you also know at this work event. He's a client, right?
Yeah. And then they're all doing coke together. She's scoring coke for the client, which I thought I'm sure that's what happens in real life. I guess I'm being prudish, # call me Carrie, but I don't know. I was a little bit
we're a little too okay with where this went.
Yeah, we're a little too okay with where this went. There is one Charlotte line read here that is incredible, and I'm already saying it now. It is my Release the Kraken, where the Gallerina comes over and is like, I need to fuck him. If I don't fuck him, I will die. And then she's like, oh, you won't die. You'll just get the equivalent of female blue balls, and then you'll pass out in your clothes. And the way she says pass out in your clothes is it hits a crystal ding to a point where I'm like, God, it's what keeps me going with this show. It's there are gems in here sometimes. You know what I mean? If I sift through 10 pounds of shit, maybe I'll get one tiny zirconian crystal. Do you know what I mean?
Marina with the little prospector, those when they were digging for gold mines and they have the big dish that they shake the dirt in.
Yes.
Yeah,
you can tell I'm smiling and turning pink again because I'm sad.
Yeah, when it sounds like Marina's smiling and her voice pitch is going up and up and up and up and up, know that she's crying.
I'm devastated. And then I do love that, so she whatever, she accidentally flirts with the Rolf guy. Again, I liked this. I thought it was very Charlotte and it was working.
Very Charlotte.
And then he kisses her and she's like, ew. And then I love how she's like, that's it, I'm leaving. And she opens the door and it's 8 a.m. It's bright as hell outside, full morning.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah.
And then we see her, at work, I guess later that morning, essentially, getting ready. And this time she's the hungover one and she's got the eye drops and all that. And then the Upper East Side mom from before is like, oh, I want that painting. And I liked that it was she doesn't have to do work like all the other girls. She can use her life to do her work better. I think that's actually a good message and is fun. And to your point, I wish we had more time and had leaned more into that. But what can you do? But maybe if they had leaned more into it, they would have ruined it. So
that's also true. That is totally fair. It's also totally, unfortunately, fair. But yeah, good place to land.
Well, that's the episode. We end our podcast as we end all our podcasts with our high and our low, our rose and our thorn. Emily, let's start with the negative. What is your diarrhea of this episode?
Everything about Seema and Carrie's journey to Virginia. I can't pick one, honestly. I really can't. Just from being on the plane to kicking Cena off, I cannot pick one. It is a miserable experience from start to finish. That's it.
Yeah. God. Well, you took that, and that was.
I know that's a lot of them, but how would we pick one from that?
You're right. I do think, making multiple gay people the villain this episode is really rough.
That's a good one.
And also draining the charisma out of that young hot Aiden.
Yeah. R.I.P. the gardener. We
R.I.P. We hardly knew ye. What was your high of the episode? What was your release the Kraken?
The scene of her trying to set up her coworker with the guy and then getting kissed and being like, ew, I'm out of here. Like, that felt very true to Charlotte and the only hint of sanity in this entire show, despite how insane that situation is, was maybe the most I felt sane.
Again, it's got to be, you'll pass out in your clothes. Just an incredible line read. Good job, Kristen Davis. Like, claps, applause.
Dragging us over the finish line.
Thank you. Well, we made it through another one. I cannot believe that we have 9 episodes left.
Oh my God. Why were they like, we have so much material, let's extend the season? That's so sick.
Yeah, sick Zaslav, a man who fired me, so I can say whatever I want. And
yeah, exactly. We know the man has no idea what he's doing because he let go our dear Marina.
Exactly, and it's personal.
It's personal.
Well, if you want something more fun, feel free to jump over to our YouTube page at Sister Pigs, where we are currently playing through Baldur's Gate with the 4 girls of Sex and the City. You don't know what Baldur's Gate is? Look it up. Also, it doesn't matter because it's very fun. So why don't you just embrace the change, contrary to Emily's point of the show's mission. Embrace the change and go over there and just click it through and have a good time. Or just listen to all our podcasts all over again. We appreciate that. So until next time, bye.